So the two best gegenpressing sides of the last decade are definitely Jurgen Klopp's Borussia Dortmund from around 2011 to 2013, and then his Liverpool side, which I think were in their peak from 2018 to 2020. Now when it came to using their counter-press as an offensive weapon, both of these sides had two crucial attributes in their attack, and I'm going to break them down later on in the video, but first I'm going to analyse the Wolves-Manchester United game, and you'll see where this becomes relevant. But before I get into that, for cheap good quality football jerseys, retro jerseys and tracksuits, go over to www.jerseyfifa.com. I myself have bought a number of different jerseys from Jersey FIFA, and my favourite has to be my Manchester United 2003-2004 jersey with Ronaldo on the back from his first season. So if you want any of these retro or current season jerseys, use the link in the description and use code ATLANTISFOOTBALL at checkout to get 5% off. So as we would expect, Rangnick set up Manchester United in a 4-2-2 system, which in possession becomes a 2-4-2-2 shape, and as United do move up the pitch, this does become a 2-2-4-2 shape with the wing backs pushing further forward. Out of possession, Bruno Lage set up his side in a 5-2-3 shape in the middle third, with Trincao and Podence either side of Jimenez retaining higher positions. And what was also interesting about Wolves' defensive system was that their backline pushed very aggressively high up the pitch, really creating a condensed, vertically compact defensive shape and trying to play an offside trap on occasion. Now even though Wolves' defensive system was very vertically compact, their midfield four didn't actually sit very narrow together, and that's because the two wide midfielders, as I've said, did sit quite high up the pitch, and this did actually leave space between the Wolves central midfielders and the wide midfielders, opening up passing lanes for United to potentially play passes from the midfield of McTominay and Matic, which is deeper in that midfield in front of Wolves' midfield four, into players in between the lines. Now from United we did see Jadon Sancho hold his width a lot more on the left side than Greenwood did on the right side, and Greenwood was constantly moving infield, looking to take up those central positions. But I think in this game we saw why Greenwood can't play in that line behind the forward line and has to instead play as a centre forward in the front two. This is because without Bruno Fernandes, Manchester United lacked passing ability to create in the final third. I thought United's attackers were incredibly wasteful when they had to play a through ball or play the right pass around the box. Within the first 10 minutes we saw Jadon Sancho pass up the opportunity to play a ball down the side for Ronaldo and instead go for a shot, which in the end wasted an opportunity, which isn't a huge problem as it was early on in the game and players can make mistakes. However, United's attack as a whole seemed to constantly either be hesitating far too long and delaying the pass, and eventually the passing lane would get closed up, or if they did play a through ball it was often overhit and a chance was wasted there. Ideally United want to have their best chance creating players in those two positions in behind the centre forwards. These players need to have the vision, quick thinking and passing ability to receive the ball in between the lines and be able to find the runs of Cristiano Ronaldo in behind the back line. In terms of United's current squad, I think the best three players to play in these two positions would be Jadon Sancho, Bruno Fernandes and Paul Pogba, as in this game against Wolves we saw that in the first half with Mason Greenwood and the second half with Marcus Rashford, when these players get into these positions, their weight of pass, decision making and overall vision is not at the level needed to create those chances for Cristiano Ronaldo and Edison Cavani. Now the reason I think Wolves proved much tougher opponents than Burnley were for Manchester United was because Wolves engaged United higher up the pitch in United's defensive third, with Jimenez leading the press and a three of Trincao, Podence and Ruben Neves pushing up from the midfield line, pressing behind Jimenez. When the ball would go onto one side we would see Jimenez block off the pass from one centre back to the other. This would condense the space that United could play in, making it easier for Wolves to push across, keeping their press vertically and horizontally compact, and more often than not they did force United into long balls up the field. This pressing tactic obviously meant that United found it harder to work the ball into the middle third and therefore the Wolves half, whereas against Burnley set off in their 4-4-2 shape, very passive, allowing United's centre backs to have time on the ball, and so that this meant United were really only one really good pass away from working the ball into Burnley's defensive third, whereas against Wolves it was a lot harder to do this as United were struggling to even work the ball into the middle third. And this is why I personally am a fan of pressing high up the pitch, even if in the middle third you do want to sit a lot more passively in a deeper compact defensive unit. At least if you press higher up the pitch you stop the opposition side simply being able to play up their defensive third, pushing you back into your own half, dominating possession and forcing your players to run side to side, making a positional mistake more likely. This is why we often see sides like Burnley defend well for about 70-80% of the game, but in the end lose the game by 2 or 3 goals because they make individual errors, because they are defending most of the time, whereas if you push up the pitch as Wolves did, you yourself can win the ball back more often. And in this game we saw that Wolves were able to control possession for periods of this game, having a lot of the ball in United's half. Now with this 4-2-2 system that Rangnick does like to play at United, what often happens is that when United do lose the ball, there seems to be massive gaps in central midfield, and this is where a top level ball winner would make a huge difference for United, being able to break up opposition attacks and allowing United to sustain their own own attacks. And I thought that McTominay, despite being the man of the match against Burnley, in this game he was very poor, both with and without possession. But before I go into that, just a reminder that I do have a Patreon, where for £5 a month, each week you'll get a weekly newsletter, as well as 2 exclusive Patreon videos, one of which will be an extra Manchester United video, one of which will be on a topic voted on by Patreons. So if you do want to help support the channel, click the link in the description to sign up to my Patreon. I do already have a few videos already out, such as the second part to my Dusan Vlahovic video, looking at where he should actually go. I give my top 3, so if you do want to see that, make sure you go to my Patreon. But if not, if you just watch my whole videos, that is very much appreciated as well. So in this game, what we would see is that Wolves would have Trincao and Podence moving infield in between the lines, and what we saw was, because Matic and McTominay were often left isolated in central midfield with Greenwood and Sancho retaining higher positions, Wolves were able to either find these two players in between the lines very easily, or play the ball into Jimenez, who did an excellent job of linking the attack. But this did come in United's half and defensive third, and ideally, the attacks would have been stopped further up the pitch. See, McTominay often would confront players as they were moving into the United half, and he made a few poor tackles, getting beaten 50-50 tackles that he has to win. One that comes to mind is when Moutinho had the ball on the left flank, and he was able to easily glide past McTominay, pushing the ball into United's defensive third. And whilst I do think that Matic is United's best defensive midfielder, he doesn't have the athleticism or the tackling ability to move across and make these big tackles to break up counter-attacks, and this is why in January United have to prioritise a ball-winning midfielder like Tchouameni, who I've talked about constantly over the last few months. And I think this game really showed that McTominay isn't a holding midfielder or a defensive midfielder. He's got to be the box-to-box midfielder playing alongside a better ball winner, and at the moment United have 2 decent box-to-box midfielders in Fred and McTominay, and an okay make-do central midfielder like Nemanja Matic, who is United's best at the moment and really their only option. But they do need to bring in that player in January, and I think it will make a huge difference, not just to United's defence, being able to stop opposition attacks before they start, but also to their counter press, as this player can move higher up the pitch, put in a tackle and allow United to win the ball back in the opposition's defensive third, which we haven't seen that often under Rangnick as much as I thought we would. Now the problem with these types of games is that the longer the game goes on and it's still at 0-0, you always leave yourself vulnerable to losing the game through a goal at the other end, and the goal that came was from Moutinho, and it wasn't a massive defensive mistake from United. The ball gets crossed in by Adama Traore, it gets headed out, but Moutinho's control and technique is absolutely perfect to volley the ball into the bottom corner, and just like that, Wolves have the game won. And it does make you think back to all the chances United had, such as Sancho's chance to release Ronaldo in the first half, a couple of chances that Cavani and Greenwood had to release Ronaldo as well, and Bruno Fernandes' chance in the second half from around the penalty spot which hit the crossbar. And so even though you could make an argument that United, under different conditions in a different game, would have maybe scored 1 or at least 2 in this game, because of their lack of weight of pass, decision making and vision in the final third, they weren't able to create or take these chances, and so it cost them at the other end. United only recorded an XG of 0.77 in this game to the Wolves' 0.84, showing United's lack of ability to create chances in this game. The only time we really saw United have the ability to move the ball quickly and transition the attack fast was when Bruno Fernandes came onto the pitch. He's a player that's able to receive the ball in the middle of the pitch, get the ball out of his feet, see a clear run, and then have the weight of pass and passing ability to play that ball over. And he released Ronaldo, who did have a shot from the left side which just went wide, but this was a great example of how someone like Bruno Fernandes is able to create a chance out of nothing really, in a position where if Mason Greenwood or Marcus Rashford had the ball at their feet, they wouldn't be able to play this same sort of pass. And so you see here the importance of having this creative long passing ability that players like Bruno Fernandes and Paul Pogba possess, and particularly in a quick transition and attack, which is what Rangnick's whole style of play is based around. You need these players in your side, otherwise your whole attack seems to lack that ability to move the attack forward with those long passes. Now I would definitely say that in January or in the summer, United need to be looking to sell one of these, what I would call wide attacking players like Marcus Rashford or Anthony Martial, or even someone like Donny van de Beek, and bring in players who are much better creative players in terms of playing these long passes, as without Fernandes and Pogba in the side, United massively lack this ability. I also think that whilst Jadon Sancho does need to hold his width to give United that advanced width in the attack, I do want to see him moving in between the lines, receiving the ball, as I do think his decision making and weight of pass generally over the last few seasons has been top level, and I think United would hugely benefit from having someone like Jadon Sancho in these central positions in between the lines, rather than having Mason Greenwood or Marcus Rashford there. Another major problem in United's attack is their lack of width and ball progression from the flanks. I think Luke Shaw against Burnley did a fantastic job of carrying the ball forward at pace, moving the ball into the final third. In this game game he didn't do it as much. He did do a couple of overlaps, and generally his crosses into the box seem to be at a good standard. But Wan-Bissaka on the other side completely slows up the attack. His technique is very clumsy. There was a couple of times where he miskicked the ball from good crossing positions, and when he does manage to get a cross into the box, it's often lofted too high with very little pace, making it easy for the goalkeeper to come and collect. And I think that when Manchester United were playing with Alex Telles and Diego Dallo at fullback, they did a lot better service from the flanks, with Telles' deep crossing ability being world class and Diego Dallo being much better on the ball in terms of his dribbling, interplay down the right side and his overall delivery into the box than Wan-Bissaka is. And I think Diego Dallo has to start over Wan-Bissaka, and at this point in Wan-Bissaka's career, if his technique is still this clunky, if he still can't put in a good delivery into the box at least 3 out of 5 times that he gets into those positions, then he can't really be a starter for Manchester United, no matter how good defensively he is, because after all, United are going to have most of the ball, and therefore they're going to be on the attack a lot, and particularly in this narrow 4-2-2 system, they need the output from the fullbacks, which Wan-Bissaka just can't provide. Now, as I said at the start of the video, the two gegenpressing sides which I think were the best over the last decade were Klopp's 2012-2013 Borussia Dortmund side, and then his Liverpool side from 2018 to 2020, and the two things that these sides had in common which United need to incorporate into their attack is forward running, not just in behind the back line but also in the middle third to move the attack forward, and quick thinking attacking players who could play these quick through balls to release runners in behind the back line to create these chances. Players like Jordan Henderson, Gini Wijnaldum and Roberto Firmino developed this in their game at Liverpool, and at Borussia Dortmund, Klopp had players like Ilkay Gundogan, Mario Götze and Marco Reus who had this ability to receive the ball, know exactly which ball to play and play it efficiently and quickly to release forward runners, and this in a counter-pressing system is crucial as speed is everything. If you receive the ball and you delay the pass too long, the opportunity is gone, you have to play a sideways pass and the overall attacking opportunity that comes from the counter press is gone, and this is what United need to get into their attack. Players like Marcus Rashford, Mason Greenwood, McTominay, Matic and even Wan-Bissaka take far too long on the ball, and often the opportunity is missed. If you watch this game, you'll see Ronaldo was making a number of fantastic runs down the side of his centre-back. If someone like Fernandes or Paul Pogba had been on the pitch, they would have been able to release him, and United would have got a lot more opportunities than they did in this game. So thank you for watching, let me know what you think in the comment section below, subscribe to the channel and click the bell for notifications, go to the description to check out my Patreon if you do want exclusive content, such as the second part of that Dusan Vlahovic video, and check out the description as well as I have left some other videos that I think you may enjoy. I've left them linked down there as well. Also, shout out to Romeo, who I did meet on New Year's Eve, the first fan I've met in public. If you are in London and you do see me, come over and talk to me. Your support on my channel is very much appreciated.